Hello and welcome back. We're still in chapter 1 here. We're in part 2. We're looking now at the structural and functional organization. First question here is really, what is the smallest unit the human body is comprised of? I'll give you a second to think about it. Think hard. So the first unit we can really consider that the human body is made of is atoms. We are all made of molecules which are comprised of atoms. It's the smallest subunit. You can go smaller than an atom, gets really weird into physics, like quarks and electrons, which we hear protons and neutrons. We heard of those, but there's quarks and other weird subatomic particles that comprise and make up an atom. So really the smallest unit that we can say we are is an atom. Which then leads us into our next question, which is what is the main structural and functional unit the human body is comprised of? Give you a second to think there. This is our cells. So we can start off a little bit in chemistry. You can see why it's important to understand chemistry, anatomy, and physiology. But the main part of the body that we're really interested in physiology especially, are cells, right? The human body is made up of cells, all different types of cells, which we'll learn through in this textbook here, but they're comprised of smallest functional unit, is the cells here for us. So when we take a whole bunch of similar cells, right, because those are the parts of the body that are making us really, in reality, when they are similar in function and materials that they produce and live in, what do we call that unit? And think about it for a moment. That is our tissue, right? So we have cells which then come together and form a tissue. Like, so a tissue would be like muscle tissue, right? So that's a functional unit there. Or cartilage tissue, or connective tissue, right? They're not, it's not a higher order organization, but you can definitely see when you're looking at tissue level organization, we see very similar cells, if not the same cells at that organization level, which is key. Because so when we move into the next question is, when we take these tissues and they're now starting to work together, what do we call that? We call that an organ, right? So an organ is a group of tissues working together to perform a function. Now, some organs, could be considered just a tissue, but if you look and think about our lungs, per se, our lungs are made up of tons of different types of cell types working together in unison to provide respiration, right? To take in oxygen and remove carbon dioxide out of our system, right? That's an organ and working, right? You could do the same with the liver or the spleen, the gallbladder, the kidneys. All of these are different potential tissues and definitely different cell types coming together, working together to perform a function for the body. Now, when we take multiple organs together, working together, what is that called? That is called an organ system. Right? So these are going to be organs working together to perform a larger function. So like intestinal system, that's an organ system, and it's a small and a large intestines, right? Those are going to be working together to digest. Or we have the stomach, which is farther up in the gastrointestinal organ system. That's, secreting acid to degrade food, right? These are multiple organ systems working together to perform, again, a higher function, right? You can even think of more rudimentary neurological, working with the skeletal system and the muscle system, all coming together to perform locomotion, right? We need the brain to send signal to the muscles to contract. The muscles then act on the bones and move the bones and propel your bones in a certain direction with a given amount of force to propel us forward, to jump, to crawl. All these different things systems have to work together to perform some sort of function that keeps us alive. Now, this is more of a kind of a philosophical question here, but what is an organism? We can define an organism as any living thing any living thing, right? Especially if it's one cell type or comprised of billions, right? So that's the kind of key thing here is when we may say an organism, you may just think about humans. But that's not just the case though. Like in this picture here, bacteria are living organisms, right? You can have plants. Those are living organisms and they're multicellular, most of them, right? But bacteria are living organisms, and yet we consider them very simple and small. Viruses are not a living organism. So if you want to learn about like microbiology and diseases that are affected by microorganisms, I encourage you to watch some of our lecture series on microbiology. But in terms of anatomy, physiology here, bacteria are a living organism, and humans are the opposite end of a living organism, right? We have billions, if not trillions, of cells working together to make us alive, make us who we are. Some ways we understand, and some ways are super complex. But this is really how we can view what an organism is. We'll stick with the humans. Again, if you want to learn about bacteria, I encourage you to watch our microbiology stuff, but we're going to be focusing in on humans. So structural and functional organization, right? So again, back to the highlighting organization here. We are starting with atoms, which is our chemical level. Then we will go into proteins, which and make DNA and sugars, sucrose, as an example. Right? So molecules, chemicals made up of atoms, making a protein DNA. Sugar, fatty acids, right, are macromolecules or biomolecules, as you can say. Those are going to be at the chemical level. Those are all going to start building up and producing our cells, our different types of cells, which we will learn, all of them. It's exciting. As an example, epithelial cells, right, which do more than just form skin, right, but are found else places. Your neurons, which is a highly specialized specific cell to produce electrochemical signal to send signals. Then we have muscle cells, right? And there's a whole bunch of others, but these are just examples because then we can take them and build them into a tissue, right? Which are forming now a three-dimensional structure with similar cells of the same type, are forming a function, right? So epithelial tissue, nervous tissue, or muscle tissue. Right? And these are skeletal muscle and cardiac muscle. So there's each one of these could make other different tissue types, but these are that's at the tissue level here. Then we have organs, right? So epithelials are cells and tissues make up bladder as well as other systems and other important organs that need that type of special tissue. It performs a function, so it's going and has a specific structure, so it's going to be performing and be localized in locations that need it. Yeah, we know neurons make the brain, right? Which gives us personality. It's highly complex. Smooth muscle is found in the stomach. Right? It's not just, it's found in blood vessels as well, but it's found in the stomach. Helps peristalsis, which is the movement of food through your GI tract, to occur. It also helps you to vomit if you need it, right? So smooth muscle can be found not just in your skeletal muscle. Well, muscle tissue can be found other places. Smooth muscle is one of them in the stomach. Those can then be built and expanded into our organ system. So like a urinary system uses kidneys and bladder to urinate, right, to remove certain chemicals and liquids out of the body and excrete it. We have our nervous system, which includes the brain as well as the central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, neurons to induce locomotion, to control other organ systems, a whole bunch of other things. Or our digestive system, right? The stomach is one part of it. We have a liver, we have small intestine, we have large intestines. All of those are the digestive system, right? And so we're going through in this textbook, in this lecture series, a systems-based approach. So we're going to be hitting up like nervous system, digestive system, urinary system, all of those as one, anatomy and physiology. All of this comes together to make an organism. So, which is us, right? In terms of our anatomy and physiology here, again, if you're keeping it simple, going with microbiology, single-celled organisms, you'll have to watch that lecture series on that. But we'll pause there because in the next section, we'll go and introduce the organ systems and what those look like. But I think this is a nice break. So I will catch you in the next video.